Hi, my name's Corrie Thorne. I am the spiritual healer coming in to start a whole new series, and I'm so excited to start this. I have been playing this out in my head and rolling around with this for a while, but here I am, and it started with a one of my dear friends, colleagues, and a student of the More Than Existing program that I offer as in alignment to my book, which is called More Than Existing. So this is the series that will be called More Than Existing, but it's based around something more than that. It is based around what she calls me as assertively compassionate. And I literally had to write that down because I always kind of mess it up somehow. I'm like, did she call me passive aggressive or did she call me? And I'm like, no, screw that shit. I am so beyond that. They're so beyond being passive about everything or being passively aggressive, pretending I'm okay when I'm not okay. I am real. I am, I'm hitting a new stage in my life, and I wanted to find a way to celebrate this because I have been actually grieving this. I've been grieving that I'm in the last stages of being in my 40s. I'm turning 50, and my birthday is actually on April Fool's Day. So it's like I figured, why not make a fool of myself and just push myself even farther than what I do in my psychic mediumship work or in my channeling and my mystic. Why not just put yourself out there as the coach that you are? I work in self-actualization, transformation, empowerment, everything that relates into us going beyond more than just existing in this world. I call it as it is, and that's why she calls me assertively compassionate. I call us out on our own bullshit. I call my own self out on my own bullshit. I am the queen of calling my own self out. I spent a lifetime apologizing. I spent a lifetime trying to perfect myself. I spent a lifetime trying to fit into a world and trying to fit into a box that I didn't really belong into. But this is me now. And this is all of me. This is who I am from every day. And you may see some, some much more prettier up versions of me, and you may see some not so pretty versions of me, but I will be here. And some days I'm in makeup and some days I'm not. It is about truly being who I am. And for me, and I had to write down a little bit about me. And so I find myself to be that whole sense of always trying to kind of have to wonder sometimes if I'm being too much, if I'm too much for people. I am confident, and I've never lacked that confidence, but I'm real. And so when I say real, what I mean is that it has taken me a long time to not try to hide. I am a real woman who just happens to be a healer. Yes, I'm passed down generations. Yes, I have ancestral lines of healers, but I'm not them. I am me. So I'm showing up at all versions of who I am today. Yes, I have some people that would probably be considered witches in the family. Way back when we had the Salem witch hunt, which we're kind of seeing come to life again right now. And that person is a witch. And, it started when I'm like, see that infuriating of judging this beautiful woman who's stepping up to be who's a judge, and she's stepping up to be this powerful essence of herself, but in her own way, not trying to fit in, not trying to blend in. She is who she is. And there's such a beauty behind that. But no, that don't fit into the society that we're trying to create as we're trying to become something again. It's like, oh, we have to create this image. We're all this and we're all that. It's like bullshit. And so I call it that bullshit out. So for me, this series and where I'm working from in More Than Existing today is about spiritually growing up and understanding that we all, we all have no choice but grow up, because we have these human bodies that, grow, that gets pubic hair, it gets boobs, it gets all those things that happen. We get wrinkles, we age, we get hair and spots, we don't want it. All that shit starts to happen to us all the way around. And so we do grow. We go to school or we do whatever. We get jobs, we get homes, we do the things like, well, a lot of people get married. I've never ever done that in my life. That hasn't happened yet. Hoping, hoping with the man I'm with. And so there's all of this stuff that we do because it is what is expected to be that grown up. And so we should grow up. And we get these homes, so we do the roles. We get married, we have kids, or if we're not going to have kids, we get careers, we get jobs, we do whatever, we travel, we get this social networking of friends. We dress a certain way, we behave a certain way, we stop wearing things that we would have worn when we're 20 because, we're grown up. And so we do all of these things that are kind of conditioned, not kind of, that are fully conditioned to us. They are conditioned for us to be this person. But where did we learn all of that? And whose skills are we using? And who is our role models? Who influenced us? Who inspired us to be that? Who inspired us to be the grown-ups that we are today? And when I stopped and realized that that my grown-up life was kind of based around broken people. And so when you look at life and we look at the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and oh, that's not how a lady behaves. And so in my book, I speak about being at an age about 15 years old when I had to dress a certain way, when I had to be this woman. It's like you're a grown-up or you're a lady, not a grown-up. You're a lady. Ladies don't dress that way. And so I like to wear shirts that are lower in the front. Always have. Maybe I was hung in another life. Sure, they're coming after me again in kind of trying to shut down our work or trying to, kind of shun us in areas. We're seeing it everywhere right now. Just putting that out there because we are seeing it. But that's we've always been judged. Women, psychics, mediums, every person who's different judged. I don't know what normal is supposed to be, but oh well. But I was about 14, 15 years old, and I didn't want to wear button-up shirts. I hated blouses. I didn't want to wear blouses ever. I didn't want to wear long sleeve shirts. I had my own way. I had my own style. I knew what I liked. I was very clear on what I liked. And I had that sense of confidence very, very early. Well, that confidence was too much for my own mother. It was too much for where I was. And she used to say, ladies don't dress like that. You should dress a little more like this. You should tame it down. You should be this. You should be that. What are people going to say? People are looking at you. What do you want people to say about you? How do you want to be seen? Well, literally, I really didn't care. And that was huge for me, is that I wasn't defining myself around what other people thought of me. I had that figured out. I was 15 to a certain degree. Sorry, stomach growl. But I was 15 years old. I really didn't care. I didn't give a shit what those people outside thought. I really did care what my parents thought. I really did care what my family thought. Well, I didn't know I cared. I didn't know I cared. Let me change that. I didn't know that I actually cared. I was such a rebel to the cause for my identity, fighting so hard to be me, that I didn't notice that I actually was caring. My body, my whole essence, was holding on to all of the words and all of the laughter and all of the being made fun of and all of those things that you think you don't care about. So when we say, oh, I don't care, screw them, we do care. And in those times that everything I was fighting for me, that became transmuted over into adult anger. So I never did wear the button-up shirts. I do a little bit now, not a whole lot. I don't like to be held in. I don't like to feel like I'm closed in. And I am a woman, and I have a cleavage, and I love to have my cleavage, and I'm very proud that I have a cleavage. And at almost 50 years old now, I still got a cleavage. Not saying the boobs are where they belong, but I have a cleavage. And so that matters to me. That's important. So after hearing that for so long, you start to define yourself by that. So I might have battled and fought my way through my outward appearance, but what was happening inside of me? And that's where the story starts to change. Because the outside kept evolving, growing, doing what it wanted to do, having several relationships, going through life, becoming the grown-up, getting my career, starting out as the hairdresser, going to work, getting a job, getting the first apartment, moving in with the first boyfriend, all of those things that you do because you're doing all the first, just like learning to walk, talk, all those first. You do all the things because you hit that age, you're a grown up. And you keep going and going and going. Then you have kids, and then you have those kids, and you're going to raise the kids, you're going to do all those things. Then you hit a point. Then you hit a wall. Then you hit this, something happens. And this year, I've really seen something happen, but this started to happen probably about, I want to say, it probably would have been about 15, about 15 years ago that this started to change. This book only just came out recently, this book, my book. And so it really changed. And when this change started to happen to me, I realized that I started to question. I noticed that things that I was just brushing off, or that I would say was just who I am or what I am, really wasn't aligning to me anymore. And then I noticed that, my God, I think this behavior of mine is acting a little bit like I'm pouting, a little bit like I'm complaining, a little bit like something more is happening here, like trauma, like I'm absent from my own self a little bit. And I started to notice these things, and they started to stand out to me. Then I heard myself speaking, and I heard this bitchy woman kind of trying to belittle or trying to make somebody, like feel as if, they feel as if I had to compete with them, compare myself to them. And I'm like, oh yeah, kind of, I didn't say, oh yeah, but it was like, oh yeah, well, I might have only been a hairdresser, but you know what I've made in my career? You know what I do? And it's like that whole sense of, who the hell is she? And why the hell does she feel need to tell somebody that she's just made this amount of money in a year compared to the person who just went to university for 5 years? Why was I playing that game? And where's that coming from? What is happening with me? And it was a moment that stopped me in my tracks. I've had many moments. I'll talk about a lot of them. But this was one of those moments when I recognized that something inside of me was really operating on a system that was no longer working. I had an old story running somewhere. And so I went searching. I remember my mother telling me that as a little girl, I was nosy. I was curious of everything. If I got a new toy and it made noise and it blinked and it did whatever, I'd have to rip that apart, figure out how that worked. Like, I'd have to see the insides. I always had to see the insides of things. Only now is that hitting me that that's what I do for a living. I go to the inner of us. I bring us home to ourselves. This program, everything that we're going to be doing in here is about coming home. We've been away from home long enough. We had to leave home because we had to grow up. And now we have to finally come home, make peace with who we are, be at one with this. At almost 50 years old, I'm finally finding that peace, setting myself free of the whole game of life, of trying to be a part of that world out there that I'm not really liking right now. Not so pretty. When I see 70, 80-year-old people going around acting as if they're 12, they're having a tantrum and they're calling each other names, I'm like, something's not right. Not suiting me. This is not the world that I want to live in. It is not the alignment to me. And it's not how I want to show up in the world. And I don't want to be a part of a competition game. And I don't want my words censored. And I don't want people telling me what I'm allowed and not allowed to say. I should have enough common sense in my head. I should have enough integrity within and throughout me to be able to step up and to know that our whole being should act like a good human. Should act like a good human. And that means a good human for ourselves, a good human for that image out there. What is so wrong with being a good human being? Right? Get this? So as we start to go through this, and as I start to look at this in in a new light, and I started to dive a little deeper, just like the little girl who would rip things apart and look on the inside. I went inward. And by going inward, I discovered a whole lot of myself that was really, truly coming from parts of me that was either defending, still fighting for the cause, or still using, I call them claim to fame moments, the good girl, the bad child syndrome, all of these parts of me, and I've kind of labeled all these, all these pieces and parts of me that were operating from either inner child triggers and on plays on the emotions, or from the young adult in me, from that young woman in me. And so when I would see this, when I seen this, I'm like, hey, I call myself a grown up, but I'm acting like a teenager, and not in my physical form, because I'm a very old soul. I really wanted to grow up way faster than anything when I was growing up. But as an adult, why am I behaving this way? As I start to piece it together, I looked at all the things in my life and all of the stories in my life where I was still comparing myself. And so as a kid, being teased and being called, Goodyear's blimp, or all or being compared to Miss Piggy, I got all these stories. And so when I seen this story, when I was comparing myself to this person, like I had to compete to their degree, that there was nothing that they were doing. They were just trying to have a conversation with me, not saying they didn't have their own issues, but I was so in that moment, in that present moment, I was going through so much pain and so much hurt, and I was telling nobody nothing about my life. I was telling no one nothing about what I've been through. And I had brushed off a lot of things that had happened in my life and just said, it's okay, just keep going, just keep trying to perfect life. I was so busy trying to perfect my image, perfect my career. By this time, when this had happened, I owned, along with my mom, I owned a massive salon and spa. We had 18 employees working there. We had 3 stories, and it was booming. It was busy. And so when I should have been in the prime of my adult years, I was probably about 33 at the time, 34. And so I should have been probably in a prime of my life. I was acting out. And I was acting out to people who I should have been thankful to, because they were sitting in my chair. And so I found myself, and not everybody, it would happen in spurts, and I couldn't figure out why. And why was happening because I was so tired and depleted that the moment that person said to me, oh, if you only knew what kind of day I had, if you only knew how tired I was, if you only knew how hard I worked. Well, I took that to be a personal statement towards me. If I only knew how hard they worked in their job, or how hard they see the story I created, because my reality and my hurt and pain and my exhaustion and tiredness was creating a reality that I was starting to live in. And the moment I got triggered by that, I responded with this defensiveness, and I became defensive to my own story. Well, I work 15 hours a day and da 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 da, and I'm like, really? Really, Corrie? Really? Is that really the way you want to behave? So what I've developed, and what I've discovered, was that we spend a lifetime growing up from the human's perspective of growing up. All the things that we should do, becoming those roles, stepping into the roles. But what we don't do, or what we don't get the opportunity to often do, and what is not, taught to us anywhere in any school systems, spiritually grow up. Connect to that inner self. Acknowledge when we are hurt, instead of being told, get over it. So every time I was made fun of, and every time I was laughed at, and every time this happened, get over it, get over it, get over it. So, but the trigger to this story came by my guidance counselor. And the story that I had stuck in my head that I thought the 17, 18-year-old at the time heard, because this is what she heard, right? This is what she, not me of today, she heard. She heard the guidance counselor tell her that going to be a hairdresser wasn't going to be a career. Why wasn't she going to be why wasn't she going to go be the psychologist? Why wasn't she going to go do that? And I was adamant that I knew in my heart I wanted to go be the hairdresser, even though I loved psychology and I had talked about it in my little papers that you fill out about life. And I'm like, I would love to be a psychologist. I'm not really somebody who can, I know in all of my heart, I didn't want to go to university for that amount of time, but my passion was in hairdressing. I loved the ability and I wanted to make people feel good. I wanted to make people feel good. I wanted to be in a place where I could help people transform their lives. Ha, hence where I am today. And so I took that, and so she says to me that to the 18-year-old repeat story, as I've come to say, they're all realities that we create. The only true truth is the truth beyond the veil. So she says to me, hairdressing is not a profession. It is not a career. You'll never make no money. You'll never do very good. You're never going to be able to take care of yourself on being a hairdresser. And back then, all those years ago, hairdressing wasn't considered to be a profession. It wasn't considered to be a career. And I did the whole FU, and I got accepted in this private college, which turned out to be the most amazing experience of my life. And I very much succeeded at doing all of that and reaching the top of the class, and so many other stories that go on within that sense. But I was still defending that story. So when this woman in the chair spoke this to me, her face, her words became the school counselor whose story I had trapped in my head the way I thought I seen it. And so I was still on the defensive. And so all these years trailing through, one of the pathways of stories that I had created, that my body, my mind, my everything was competing with, was the story of the F you, let me prove to you what I can do. I'm going to show you what I can be, and I'm going to show you what a hairdresser is, and I'm going to show you how much money a hairdresser can make. And I am, and I am, and I am, and I am, and I am. And so the I am wasn't a very healthy I am. It wasn't from the beautiful Saint Germain power of I am, or from the essence of any biblical stories of I am. It was from a sense of insecurity, fear, judgment, truly started me on another one of those journeys of where I became absent in the presence of my soul connection to myself, and my passion, my drive, my why behind why I would have wanted to be a hairdresser, or what I absolutely loved about my career and how much I loved being a hairdresser. I loved being a hairdresser. I loved every day of it. I have been blessed to have beautiful, wonderful careers from beginning to where I am now at 50 years old. So what I discovered in that moment is that I spiritually wasn't growing up. That all these stories had me trapped in old stories. And then I sat down. Then I started to write out a whole lot of those. And it went on and on and on. And I know I'm not the only person, because I've met a lot of them, and I have a lot of these women who are in my training that are taking these courses, that are in the More Than Existing, which is now becoming the More Than Existing Academy. And so all of this sense and of worth was based around a lie. And we lie to ourselves. And I say, but I want that big salon. I want all those employees. I want everything like that. But what I wanted was to prove somebody wrong. What I wanted was now surpassing all of my needs. My want, combined with all the rest of my life, was surpassing my needs. And I had forgotten all of my needs, because I have a shitload of those kind of stories that had led me to where I am. or where I was, not where I am today. And so all of those truly, truly led me to stepping so far away from myself, so far away from home, and so far caught up in the story of life, in this world of what we think we have to do, what we have to become. You have to, you have to, you have to, based on conditioning. So you throw in conditioning, and then you throw in people's opinions and people's words and people's thoughts of you and how people treat you, and you mix that up, and you got a well mixed up bag of emotions that stick with you and stay with you. And then when you are triggered, you respond back to the instinctual way of way back when it happened. So every time I would become that defensive and I would start defending, I was defending from the 17, 18-year-old self. So I was acting like a kid. And I was in my 30s. Now look at our lives and how many places we do that. How often that happens to us. We do it in our relationships. We do it in our career. We have it happen to us. We are seeing it. How did I change it? I became aware is where I started. I became aware. I started to notice when this was happening. I started to catch it in the moment. I would write myself notes. You need to be curious about this. How it really truly started to come, I got curious again. I start ripping this all apart. I start taking it. I didn't start ripping me apart. Well, no, that's a lie. That's not true. I did rip myself apart for a long time. I don't rip myself apart. Let me rephrase that. I don't rip myself apart, but I'm very curious to the why behind that happening. And so when it's something serious, I know it's an urgent why. There's an urgent why of, is this aligning to my truest of truth? Is this aligning to my heart story? Does this make my soul sing? And so it's like when you go home at the end of the day and you sit on the couch and you got more arguments and complaints and hate the world and pissed off at the world than you have good, inspiring stories, or that you have moments of, oh, what a beautiful day. I've met such beautiful people. Life was so good. I feel so good about what I accomplished today. I did well. And if you got more of, what a shitty ass day and people are such assholes and da 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 da, then it's time to stop and pause. Get curious. Start noticing. Pay attention to your own behavior. Pay attention to your own words. When we start to pay attention to our own self, because that's where the wants and needs, because I wanted everything in this world to come to me. I wanted my world to suit my reality. I wanted my world to fit that reality. So I created that reality and I continued the stories for that reality. And we do that. We do it to ourselves constantly. But my needs, what were my needs? What did I truly need? What did I truly want to see happen? So reframing all of my questions to what needs to die of this? What part of this story should no longer be alive? And so from the woman who I am today, when I look back, or the woman I was at the time, when I look back at the story of the social work, of the school counselor, what her job was, why she was there to help encourage me to do the best that I could, to the best of my abilities, to be open to exploring, for me to be curious, and to then know exactly what I wanted to do. Did she tell me hairdressing really wasn't ever going to, fulfill my career? Probably not. She probably had me write out the list of what I wanted to see in my life. And I probably wrote down a big, massive house, and I want a big car, and I want this, and I want that. And that did not align to me starting out on a career and a job where it was commission, and I was probably going to make nothing until I got clients. And I'm pretty sure, now that I look back from the adult, I'm pretty sure we sat down and filled out papers. I'm pretty sure she sat down and she explored that with me. Pretty sure that really did happen. But the silver lining of that experience, and that's what we go to in More Than Existing. We find that golden thread moment, that silver lining moment whatever you want to call it, that you look back at it. What lessons did I learn? What has it taught me? And what am I ready to let go of? And what fear story have I been telling for so long around there that I'm ready to release that? And that is the false evidence appearing real stories, the ones that are not really true, because not that story was only as true as the life that, as the story I was creating of it. And it was only alive because I was breathing life into it. And so spiritually growing up is when we can acknowledge those times, when we can explore them, we can look at the situations, we can gain a new perspective, we can look in from who we are today, from the grown-up we are today, and we can look at it from that perspective, and we can let that little story of us, let that teenager of us, let that part of us go to rest. You know, I'm sorry that I ever, I'm sorry you ever felt responsible to defend me this way, or to defend, to stay on that defensive. It cost me a lot. What is it costing us to continue that? It cost me a lot, because it cost me really, truly enjoying the whole process of becoming a successful businesswoman. It held me back from holding on to my success. It held me from holding on to the financial wins that came with that, because I was fighting so hard for that sense of worth, that I was blowing and spending every dime coming in to try to be the part, to look the part, to be all of those things. But what did I have? I had nothing. I had nothing. I had everything and I had nothing, because who I was in the physical maturity and all that I had created wasn't aligning to the whole alignment of my mind, body, soul connection. In order to be a grown-up, a true grown-up, a woman who truly is stepping up and into her light, you've got to be willing to fix the foundation. Empires are not built on weak foundations. Empires are built by going back, making sure to explore. And when we find a problem, when we discover that something is not working, we go back and become curious to explore why. We are an empire. And everything that we need is inside of us. We have everything that we will need, but our needs need to be met. Self-care, love, compassion, all of those things are an important part of being a well-aligned adult who is putting themselves out there and becoming a part of that world. If we want to be that grown-up, we have to do the grown-up things and to really redefine what a grown-up is, because we've lost that touch with reality. We've created a whole new reality based on our hurts, and not on our faith. And what have I discovered since then? I have discovered that finding me has been one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. And at almost 50 years old, I found myself again grieving a little bit, because I've had a beautiful journey. I did not say it was easy, through my 40s. And moving into my 50s is another uncertainty. But for who I am today, for the grown-up woman I am today, who can pick and choose what she's going to do with her day, I get to decide. And so I'm deciding that I want to share the journey. I'm deciding that I want to help others not hit that pivotal point in life of turning 50 and thinking, oh God, is my life going to be over? It's like, no, it's a new opportunity, and a new opportunity to explore. So are you noticing from that story areas in your life where you just haven't spiritually grown up? This has been waiting for us to come home. This essence, this light inside of us, it waits for us. doesn't lose its patience, doesn't judge us, doesn't pick on us. We do that. And it's just waiting for us to show up to build a beautiful relationship, to find the essence of what it means to have self-love. And it means being honest with ourselves, being very honest with ourselves. I want to thank you for joining me today. Thank you for being with me. We're going to have a whole lot of these, and we'll even have some people show up and be guests with me, and some of my people will be showing up as we really work through this. So it's like the biggest thing that I say to myself: get over yourself, get out of your own way. It's like questioning myself. I could be wrong. I could very well be wrong. But I am curious. I could be wrong, but I could be right. I don't know. And there's a whole lot I don't know at this point. And now I have no desire to be defending any old parts of me. I am who I am. And that's the beautiful part of this journey. I really hope you join me, and please stay with us as we continue on. If you like this video, please please subscribe. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification, and you'll get notifications, and you're still going to see all my fun psychic medium stuff. You're still going to see all the monthly messages coming out, the channeled messages, all the monthly zodiac channel messages. You'll still see my weekly vlogs. There is so many parts of me that I love to work with now, instead of trying to define myself all into one box. I am Corrie the life coach. I'm Corrie the healer. I am Corrie the psychic medium. Most of all, I'm just Corrie. Thank you for joining me today. And also, if you're on Facebook, like and follow Facebook, because these videos will also be linking over to there. But for YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. If you like this, this is called More Than Existing. Welcome to the journey of More Than Existing. Bye-bye.